When everything changes, this truth will set you free. Buddhist Wisdom on Impermanence. Part 1. The day everything began to change. There is an old saying in Buddhism. Nothing in this world remains the same. Not our bodies, not our relationships, not our joys, and not even our sorrows. Yet most people spend their entire lives living as if things will stay exactly as they are today. They believe they will always have more time, more chances, more tomorrows, until one ordinary morning quietly proves otherwise. Michael had lived the same routine for nearly 20 years. Every weekday, his alarm rang at exactly 6:15. He would reach for the phone before opening his eyes, scroll through emails, glance at the weather, and then hurry into another day. Coffee, traffic, meetings, deadlines, dinner, television, sleep, then repeat. It wasn't a bad life. It simply wasn't a life he ever stopped to notice. His wife often laughed and said, "One day you'll retire and finally learn how beautiful mornings are." He would smile without looking up from his laptop. "I'll have plenty of time later." Later. It was his favorite word. Later, he would travel. Later, he would visit his parents more often. Later, he would spend weekends with friends. Later, he would rest. Later, he would become happier. Without realizing it, he had exchanged today for an imaginary future that always seemed just around the corner. One Saturday afternoon, his daughter Emily invited him to the park. "Dad, can you come watch me ride my bike? I'm finishing something for work. It'll only take 10 minutes. I promise next weekend." She nodded. Children believe promises because they have not yet learned how easily adults break them. The next weekend came. Another meeting. Another deadline. Another promise postponed. Months passed this way. Emily gradually stopped asking. Michael barely noticed. Life rarely announces its turning points. It whispers them. Sometimes the whisper is so soft that we only hear it years later. One autumn evening, Michael received a phone call from his younger brother. Their father had collapsed. The doctors believed it was serious. Michael drove 3 hours through heavy rain. The road seemed endless. His hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than ever before. As he drove, memories surfaced without invitation. His father teaching him to ride a bicycle. His father fixing broken toys late into the night. His father standing proudly at his graduation. His father waiting outside the airport whenever Michael came home. How many times had his father asked him to visit? How many birthdays had he missed because of work? How many conversations had ended with the same words? "I'll come next month." When Michael arrived, the hospital room was quiet. Machines hummed softly. The steady rhythm of monitors filled the silence. His father looked smaller somehow. Older. Fragile. Nothing like the strong man he remembered. Michael sat beside the bed. He searched desperately for something meaningful to say. Instead, only one sentence escaped. "I'm sorry I didn't come sooner." His father slowly opened his eyes. A faint smile appeared. Then he whispered, "You came." Only 2 words. Yet they carried the weight of a lifetime. That night Michael did not sleep. He sat beside the hospital window watching rain slide down the glass. People entered. People left. Doctors hurried through corridors. Babies cried in distant rooms. Some families celebrated recoveries. Others quietly packed belongings after saying goodbye forever. Inside one building, every human emotion seemed to exist at once. Joy, fear, hope, grief, birth, death, beginning, ending. It was then, perhaps for the first time in his life, that Michael noticed something he had always ignored. Nothing remained unchanged. Not one face he saw. Not one season outside the window. Not one heartbeat. Everything moved. Everything flowed. Everything transformed. The following morning, Michael walked into the hospital garden. An elderly monk was sitting beneath a maple tree. Bright red leaves drifted gently to the ground. The monk picked up one leaf and held it in his hand. Without looking at Michael, he asked, "Why do people become sad when leaves fall?" Michael hesitated. "Because it means summer is over." The monk smiled. "Did the leaf fail?" Michael frowned. "No." "Then why do we call its falling a tragedy?" Michael had no answer. The monk continued. "The leaf fulfilled its purpose. It grew. It gave shade. It danced with the wind. And now it returns to the earth. If it refused to fall, spring would never come again." Michael watched another leaf float gently downward. He had seen millions of falling leaves before. But somehow, this one felt different. For the first time, he wasn't simply looking at nature. He was seeing himself. His parents were changing. His daughter was growing. His own hair had begun turning gray. Friends he once spoke with every day had become strangers. Dreams he believed were urgent had quietly disappeared. Even his worries from 10 years ago had vanished without asking permission. Everything he tried so desperately to hold onto had already been changing all along. Not because life was cruel, but because change was the very nature of life. And perhaps, the real source of suffering was not that things change. It was that he kept expecting them not to. Part 2. The monk Who never tried to change the river. The following morning, Michael returned to the hospital garden. He did not know why. Perhaps he wanted fresh air. Perhaps he wanted a few moments away from the endless sounds of hospital machines. Or perhaps, he hoped to see the old monk again. The maple tree stood quietly in the gentle morning breeze. The monk was exactly where he had been the day before, sitting on a weathered wooden bench, holding a cup of warm tea. Without looking up, he smiled. "I wondered if you would come back." Michael sat beside him. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. The silence felt strangely comfortable. It was not the awkward silence of strangers. It was the peaceful silence of two people watching the same sunrise. Finally, Michael broke the silence. "I couldn't stop thinking about what you said yesterday." The monk nodded. "About the leaves?" "Yes." "And what did they teach you?" Michael sighed. "I'm not sure. I only know that something inside me feels different." The monk looked toward the trees. "That is how wisdom usually arrives. Not like thunder, but like dawn. It grows brighter little by little." After another pause, Michael asked, "Why is it so difficult to accept change?" The monk smiled gently. "Because the mind loves certainty. It wants guarantees. It wants promises. It wants everything beautiful to last forever. But life never made that promise." The monk picked up a small pebble from the ground. He tossed it into a nearby pond. Ripples spread across the surface. "Look carefully. The water never argues with the stone. It simply responds. The ripples appear. They disappear. And the pond returns to stillness." He turned toward Michael. "But human beings are different. When something unexpected falls into our lives, we spend years asking, 'Why me? Why now? Why did this happen?'" The monk smiled. "The water never asks those questions." Michael stared at the ripples until they vanished. He realized something. The pond had not resisted. It had not tried to hold the ripples forever. Nor had it tried to erase them. It simply allowed them to come. And to go. "I don't think I'm like the pond," Michael admitted. "I hold on to everything. My mistakes. My regrets. My fears." The monk laughed softly. "So does almost everyone." Then the monk asked a question that caught Michael by surprise. "Tell me, How old are you? 47. Were you ever 20? Of course. Where is that 20-year-old man now? Michael smiled. He's gone. Are you sad that he disappeared? Michael thought for a moment. No. Why not? Because that's how life works. The monk nodded. You already understand impermanence. You simply don't realize that you do. You accepted that childhood disappeared. You accepted that your voice changed. You accepted that your body aged. You accepted that yesterday became today. So why do you refuse to accept that people, relationships, success, and pain also change? Michael had never thought about it that way. He suddenly realized how selective his acceptance had been. He welcomed the changes that benefited him. He resisted the ones that challenged him. The monk continued. Most suffering is born from one simple sentence. Michael looked curious. What sentence? The monk answered quietly. This should not be happening. When we lose someone, this should not be happening. When we grow older, this should not be happening. When our plans fail, this should not be happening. When our bodies become sick, this should not be happening. The monk looked into Michael's eyes. But according to whom? The question lingered between them. Michael searched for an answer. He found none. The monk took another sip of tea. In Buddhism, we do not say that suffering comes only from pain. Pain is part of life. Suffering begins when we fight reality. He pointed toward the clouds drifting slowly across the sky. Can you stop those clouds from moving? No. Can you order the sun to remain exactly where it is? No. Can you prevent autumn from becoming winter? No. The monk smiled again. Then why do you believe you can stop life from changing? For a long time, Michael simply watched the clouds. He noticed something he had ignored since childhood. Nothing in nature resisted its own rhythm. The river did not complain about flowing. The wind did not complain about changing direction. The trees did not mourn every leaf that fell. Only people expected permanence in a world built entirely upon change. That afternoon, Michael returned to his father's hospital room. His father was awake. For the first time in months, Michael put away his phone. Completely. No notifications. No emails. No excuses. They talked. Not about business. Not about politics. Not about money. Instead, they talked about fishing trips from years ago. About family vacations. About the first bicycle Michael ever owned. They laughed. Sometimes they cried. Sometimes they simply sat together. And somehow, that silence said more than words ever could. Before Michael left, his father reached into the drawer beside his bed. He handed Michael an old photograph. It showed the two of them standing beside a lake. Michael looked no older than 10. His father had one arm resting proudly on his shoulder. On the back of the photo were 4 handwritten words. Best day of my life. Michael felt his throat tighten. He had completely forgotten that day. But his father never had. Driving home that evening, Michael kept thinking about the photograph. He realized something painful. His father had treasured moments that Michael barely remembered. Meanwhile, Michael had spent years chasing promotions, salaries, and achievements that now seemed strangely insignificant. He wondered how many priceless moments he had traded for things he could no longer even recall. A week later, Emily asked him a familiar question. Dad, do you want to go to the park? Michael looked at his laptop. The screen was filled with unfinished work. Deadlines. Charts. Messages marked urgent. For a brief moment, the old habit returned. Maybe later. But before the words escaped, he remembered the monk. He remembered the falling leaf. He remembered the photograph. He slowly closed the laptop, smiled, and said, Let's go now." Emily's face lit up with a joy that no promotion could ever buy. As they walked through the park, she laughed while chasing pigeons across the grass. She picked tiny wildflowers. She asked questions about clouds. She pointed excitedly at butterflies. To anyone else, it looked like an ordinary afternoon. But Michael knew something profound had happened. He had not merely gone to the park. He had finally arrived in his own life. The monk had never told him to abandon work. He had never said that ambition was wrong. He had never asked him to escape the world. Instead, he had taught something far more subtle. Do not postpone living, because the moment you are waiting for is already passing. And like every autumn leaf, it will never return in exactly the same way again. Part 3: The Second Arrow. Several days passed. Michael continued visiting his father every evening after work. The doctors said his condition was stable. Not better. Not worse. Stable. It was a word that brought comfort without offering certainty. Each day felt like a borrowed gift. And for the first time in years, Michael stopped measuring his life by accomplishments. Instead, he measured it by moments. A shared meal. A quiet conversation. A smile. A hand held for a few extra seconds. These small moments, once overlooked, had quietly become the richest part of his life. One afternoon, while walking through the hospital garden, Michael found the monk feeding a few sparrows. The tiny birds hopped fearlessly around his feet. One bird landed on the bench beside him. The monk smiled. People often ask how to stop suffering. Michael nodded. I've wondered that myself. The monk gently shook his head. That question contains a misunderstanding. Michael looked puzzled. What do you mean? The monk scattered another handful of seeds. As long as we are alive, there will be pain. We will lose people. Our bodies will grow old. Our hearts will break. Our plans will fail. Even the Buddha experienced physical pain. So the goal is not to eliminate pain. The goal is to stop creating unnecessary suffering. Michael frowned. I don't understand. The monk picked up 2 small twigs. He held one in each hand. Imagine someone shoots you with an arrow. Would it hurt? Of course. The monk nodded. Now imagine, after being struck, you pick up another arrow and shoot yourself again. Michael stared at him. Why would anyone do that? The monk smiled gently. Exactly. The first arrow is life's pain. The second arrow is everything we add afterward. This should never have happened. I will never recover. My life is ruined. Why does this always happen to me? I can't live without what I've lost. The first arrow may wound the body. The second arrow wounds the mind. And unlike the first, we choose the second. Michael remained silent. He could almost hear those thoughts echoing inside his own mind. How many nights had he replayed old mistakes? How many times had he punished himself for words he could no longer take back? How many hours had he spent worrying about a future that never unfolded the way he imagined? He suddenly realized that some of the greatest pain in his life had not come from reality. It had come from his resistance to reality. The monk continued. When rain falls, it simply rains. It is neither personal nor unfair. But if you stand outside shouting at the sky, you become wet twice. Michael couldn't help but laugh. The image was almost absurd. Yet it described his life perfectly. That evening, his father was stronger. They spoke for nearly an hour. His father asked about Emily, about Michael's work, about the old neighborhood. Then, unexpectedly, he asked, "Are you happy?" The question landed with surprising weight. Michael opened his mouth. No answer came. He thought about the promotions, the new car, the larger house, the endless list of goals he had once believed would bring lasting happiness. Then he thought about sitting quietly beneath the maple tree, watching his daughter laugh, holding his father's hand. Somehow, those simple moments had brought him more peace than years of chasing success. Finally, he answered honestly, "I think I'm learning." His father smiled. "That's enough." A few days later, Michael returned to work. The office looked exactly the same. People rushed through the hallways. Phones rang constantly. Meetings filled the calendar. Someone complained about traffic. Someone celebrated a new client. Someone argued over numbers that would be forgotten by next month. Nothing had changed. Except Michael. He noticed how quickly everyone hurried, including himself. For years, he had believed that life existed somewhere beyond today's responsibilities, as though happiness waited at the finish line. But there was always another finish line. Another promotion. Another project. Another reason to postpone living. The monk had never said success was wrong. Only attachment. Success could be enjoyed. Failure could be learned from. But neither should become your identity. Because both would pass. Just as summer becomes autumn. Just as youth becomes old age. Just as sunrise quietly becomes night. One evening, while walking home, Michael saw a little boy crying beside a broken sandcastle. The waves had washed it away. The child's grandfather knelt beside him. Instead of rebuilding it immediately, the old man said, "Look at the ocean." The boy sniffled. "It's gone." "Yes. And tomorrow, we can build another." The child looked uncertain. "But it won't be the same." The grandfather smiled. "No. It may be even better." Michael stopped walking. The conversation lasted less than a minute. Yet it felt like another lesson from the monk. Adults often mourn the castles that life washes away. Children, given enough love, simply begin building again. That night, Michael wrote something in a notebook. Not goals. Not deadlines. Not financial plans. Just one sentence. "Nothing I love can stay forever." He stared at the words for a long time. At first, they sounded sad. Then something shifted. If nothing lasts forever, then every ordinary moment is extraordinary. Every hug matters. Every meal shared matters. Every conversation matters. Every sunrise matters. Because each one is happening only once, never to be repeated in exactly the same way again. The next morning, Michael returned to the garden. The bench beneath the maple tree was empty. The monk was nowhere to be seen. He waited. 10 minutes. 20. Nearly an hour. Finally, a hospital volunteer walked past. "Are you looking for the old monk?" Michael nodded. "He left yesterday. He visits hospitals all over the country. He never stays in one place for very long." Michael smiled. Of course. Even the teacher had moved on. Impermanence had quietly taught one final lesson. Nothing is meant to be possessed. Not even wisdom arrives to stay forever. It appears, changes us, and continues its journey. As Michael stood beneath the maple tree, a single red leaf drifted slowly through the air. He reached out. For a brief moment, it rested gently in the palm of his hand. He looked at it, then smiled, and let the wind carry it away. For the first time in many years, he did not feel the need to hold on. Part 4: The Gift Hidden Inside Goodbye. Winter arrived quietly. The maple tree that had once blazed with crimson leaves now stood bare beneath a pale sky. Its branches reached toward the clouds like open hands. Many people would have called it lifeless. But the monk's words returned to Michael. If the leaf refused to fall, spring would never come. For the first time, he saw the tree differently. It was not dying. It was simply changing. Blank. Underscore. Blank. A week later, the phone rang just before dawn. Michael knew. Some messages do not need to be spoken. He answered anyway. His younger brother's voice trembled. Dad passed away peacefully this morning. The room became completely silent. Outside the window, the world continued as if nothing had happened. Cars moved through the streets. Birds greeted the sunrise. Neighbors walked their dogs. Life had not paused. And somehow, that felt both cruel and strangely beautiful. Because this, too, was the way of the world. One life ends. Another begins. The river never stops flowing. When Michael arrived at the hospital, his father's bed was empty. The machines had been turned off. The room that had once been filled with anxious conversations was now still. He walked slowly to the window where they had watched the rain together. For a long time, he simply stood there. Tears came. He did not try to stop them. The monk had never said that awakening meant never crying. Love naturally grieves when it loses what it treasures. The heart does not become stone through wisdom. It becomes spacious enough to hold both sorrow and gratitude. Michael finally understood the difference. Pain had arrived, but he no longer reached for the second arrow. At the funeral, relatives spoke about his father's kindness. One remembered how he repaired bicycles for neighborhood children without accepting payment. Another recalled how he quietly delivered groceries to an elderly widow every winter. A former coworker smiled through tears as he said, "I never saw him leave work before making sure everyone else was okay." Michael listened in silence. He realized there were entire chapters of his father's life he had never known. A human life was far larger than any single person could ever witness. No matter how close we are to someone, there will always be stories we never hear, moments we never see, acts of kindness that leave no record except in the hearts they touched. That evening, after the guests had gone home, Michael found himself sitting alone in his father's workshop. Everything was exactly as it had been. The old wooden tools, the worn workbench, a faded calendar still hanging on the wall. The scent of cedar and machine oil lingered in the air. He opened a drawer looking for nothing in particular. Inside was a small notebook. Its pages were filled with ordinary lists. Things to fix, seeds to plant, birthdays to remember, shopping notes. Nothing extraordinary. Then, near the final page, he found a sentence written in careful handwriting. "Do not become so busy making a living that you forget to live." Michael closed his eyes. Those words felt like a conversation that had continued long after his father's voice had fallen silent. Weeks passed. Grief changed its shape. At first it arrived like crashing waves. Without warning. Without mercy. Then the waves became smaller. Less frequent. They never disappeared completely. But they no longer threatened to pull him under. Michael began to understand something many people misunderstand about healing. Healing does not mean forgetting. Healing means learning to carry love without being crushed by its absence. Spring returned. Tiny green buds appeared on the maple tree. Children once again played in the hospital garden. Birdsong replaced the silence of winter. Michael smiled as he looked upward. The tree had kept its promise. The leaves had fallen. And still, life had found a way to bloom again. Not because it ignored loss, but because loss had always been part of life's rhythm. One afternoon, Emily tugged gently at his sleeve. "Dad? Yes? Do you miss Grandpa?" Michael looked toward the sky. "Every day. Does it still hurt?" He thought carefully before answering. "Sometimes. But something else has grown beside the hurt." "What?" "Gratitude." Emily tilted her head. "For what?" "For having someone wonderful enough to miss." She smiled quietly. Children often understand profound truths long before adults realize they do. Years passed. Emily grew taller. The first gray hairs appeared in Michael's beard. The company he had once believed could not survive without him welcomed new employees. Old colleagues retired. New technology replaced familiar routines. Neighbors moved away. New families arrived. Restaurants opened. Others closed forever. The city itself slowly transformed. Everywhere Michael looked, life whispered the same lesson. Nothing stays. Nothing waits. Nothing can be held forever. And because of that, everything matters. Sometimes people asked him, "What changed your life?" They expected him to recommend a book, a seminar, a vacation, a financial decision. Instead, he would smile and tell them about an old monk beneath a maple tree. Most would laugh. Some looked disappointed. The answer seemed too simple. But wisdom is often simple. It is living it that is difficult. One autumn afternoon, many years later, Michael returned to the same hospital garden. The bench was older now. The tree was larger. Leaves drifted gently through the air exactly as they had on the day he first met the monk. He sat quietly. No phone. No rush. No destination. Just breathing. Just watching. Just being. A young man sat beside him. He looked exhausted. Worried. Restless. After several minutes, the young man spoke. "My mother is upstairs. The doctors don't know what will happen." Michael nodded gently. They sat together in silence. Finally, the young man whispered, "I'm afraid of losing her." Michael looked toward the falling leaves. Then he repeated the words that had once changed his own life. "The leaf does not fail when it falls." The young man looked confused. Michael smiled. It has simply completed this season of its journey. Neither of them spoke again. The wind carried another leaf across the garden. Michael watched it dance through the sunlight. For a brief moment, he imagined the old monk smiling somewhere beyond the turning seasons. Before leaving, Michael looked once more at the maple tree. Then he quietly said, "Thank you." He wasn't sure whether he was thanking his father, the monk, the tree, life itself. Perhaps all of them. Closing reflection. If you are listening to these words today, pause for just a moment. Take a slow breath. Look around you. The room you are sitting in will not always look the same. The hands holding your phone or resting on your lap will one day grow older. The people you love are changing, just as you are. This is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to awaken you. Impermanence is not life's punishment. It is life's greatest teacher. Because flowers bloom, we stop to admire them. Because childhood passes, we treasure its laughter. Because sunsets fade, we lift our eyes before darkness arrives. And because our own lives are limited, every act of kindness matters. Every apology matters. Every embrace matters. Every ordinary morning is, in truth, extraordinary. The Buddha taught that suffering begins when we demand permanence from a world whose nature is change. But peace begins the moment we stop asking life to stand still. The river keeps flowing. The seasons continue turning. Leaves fall. New leaves grow. The sun rises. The sun sets. And through it all, we are invited to do one simple thing. Be fully present. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Now. Because this moment, the one you are living right now, will never come again. So cherish it. Share your kindness while you can. Speak your love while you can. Forgive while you can. And when the time comes to let go, may you remember the leaf that never feared the wind. For it knew something that we spend our whole lives trying to understand. Nothing lasts forever. And that is precisely what makes life so incredibly precious.